Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, Lordy. Oh, I don't have the thing up. I never have the thing up. Let's reposition that. Let's pull that, like, say, over here. Hey, Corrales. Good morning, Bragwin. Hello, the Count. I just realized that. Here's the pole. Cycle it around. Hey, Rax. I didn't get an official from you, so just let me know. I've got the Zoom up in case you decide to join it. It's actually muted right now. If you don't, we can always do it on Discord. It's up to you. Let me know. Hi, guys. So, let's start with some Lorewalker stuff. Lorewalker news. Umatsu. Am I right? I should probably switch this. I'm sorry. I've actually really been happy with how the Cordons project has been going. We're up to 63 songs now, I think. 65, excuse me. I just did the 65th song last night for the Cordons project. Now, that's funny you say that, Rax, because I looked that up specifically, like on a song-to-song basis, to figure out which one was which. Oh, there's Rax. Maybe. Maybe not. But yeah, I actually went digging on this one. Figure out who it was. Oh, okay, he's there. Okay. Cool. Apparently I don't actually know how to mute just Zoom. I mean, I could do it manually, I guess, but... FYI. You're unmuted right now.
Hi guys, we're going to be talking about FF15 Parts 3 today.
Yeah. But don't worry, that'll wait till later. Anyways, you probably don't want to listen to all that music, but I just want to say that the Cordons project is going along wonderfully. You guys can actually suggest songs if you'd like to. That's totally up to you, of course. The only requirements for the Cordons music has to be something that's basically copy-wrong immune. That's very important. And that's about it, really. The whole point of asking other people to suggest songs is that way I get a larger variety of songs that I myself would never have had otherwise. And thank you very, very much. Who is that? Let's just scroll up. Volcanto! Thank you very, very much, Volcanto. As ever, much appreciate those Twitch Prime subs. What would you like to put that towards? Oh my god. Here they come. Here we go. Thank you very, very much, Pico. Over the Year Club. As ever, I do very much appreciate those subs. Even those Tier 1 subs. What would you like to put that towards? I'm waiting for Sagan. Are we cool? So, that's where the Cordons project is at. For those of you not aware, the Imperium... Oh, damn it! I knew it! I knew it! Hang on. It's Sonoshi... Warcraft 3 Thank you very, very much, Sonoshi, and I've already jotted that down for Warcraft 3 Remastered. Or Warcraft 3 Reforged, excuse me. Anyone else? Okay, we're cool. We're cool. The Imperium Mainliner project is actually going pretty well. We've got a bunch of people who are interested. Working with several viewers. Carbon, Bragwin, Fallout Bear is thinking about some stuff. There's several people thinking about it. I've been tossing out a couple of Discord invites to people specifically on Patreon who want to get involved. So, you see a few new 40k. Oh my god. Well, thank you very, very much, Rax. As ever, I do appreciate it. I really, really do. What would you like to put that towards, Rax? I suppose I can unmute myself for this one. You're welcome, Degal. I hope it works out for you. like I said, I've had good luck with the Corsair, so... Oh my god! Ladies and gentlemen, the fear doesn't stop. Thank you very, very much, Sacred King. You're almost at the year mark. We have a lot of people at or over the year mark. It's kind of weird to think about that I've been an affiliate for over a year now. Thank you. What would you like to put that towards, Sacred? No, Volcanto, you can put donations, especially subs, towards things that are already completed to show interest, to show how much people are interested in it. Since that's mostly the reason for the whole funding thing anyways, is to show interest. So, I already jotted down. Rax, I will put his to Smash. I think I'm missing a couple there. And thank you very, very much, Shaludo. Welcome to the 9-month club. As ever, much appreciated. Okay, 1. Kingdom Hearts 3. We're going to have a poll about that in December. So be aware for that. That poll is going to be going live in December. We're going to leave it live for a decent chunk of December, so just be aware of that. Speaking of which, we have a poll up right now, as the vote thing indicates. Please make sure you vote on this poll. I've already tossed out a link. Some people should have it. If I have to toss it out again, I can pull it up again. There you go. Braden, I got it out. So, vote, vote, vote. Okay. So make sure you vote on that. That poll, the one that's up right now, is going to be up for a bit. And by a bit, I mean at least a week, possibly 2. So I'm going to make sure we get as much buy-in as possible on that, but I wanted to plug that as early as possible. No, I'm not scared of clowns, sorry. I don't actually think anybody's actually scared of clowns. I think that's just kind of a meme. So, the Imperium Mainlander project, I just wanted to plug that again because you're more than welcome to participate if you happen to have an interest in it. Like I said, we've already got several stories going through it and working for it, and I'm really happy with what we have so far. I'm really hoping that we will get a lot of interesting things going forward.
Oh, welcome. Pay close attention. Hopefully you'll learn something.
And I guess this is my fault since I've only streaming once this week. So of course I'm going to get a lot of people in this once. This is normal, by the way. There's a reason the website is blank when it comes to future streams. The next stream we do will be next Loreweek because I'm focusing on YouTube. That'll be the next thing I talk about. But hang on a second. First of all, thank you very much, Casual Gladius. Second of all, which Fist of the North Star? Is there a new one coming out, or is that like for the original? Because those are two different things that I need to know. Good morning, Valerian. Good morning, Dakota. I have gotten your sound samples, by the way. I know. So okay, let's rewind. I've gotten completely off track here. Love you, SJ. Hello, Bartman. Lorewalker Theater, okay?
Of course.
Oh my God!
They all do.
I'm never gonna be... It's just a gushy. Okay. The count. 35. To Spyro, you got it. Okay, so apparently there is a new Fist of the North Star. So here's how this usually works, Casual. If there's a game that you want to plug for a premiere run, the only thing that has to happen is I have to vet it. Make sense? So, knowing nothing about this game, having not even known it exists, I cannot say now, right? I cannot say yes right now. Makes sense? But I will jot it down as a potential, a maybe. And I will look into that probably after Loreweek. And if it's cool, then yeah, I'll add it to the list. And if it's not, give me like a backup. I'll jot down a backup like right now. Let's rewind a second. 9 minutes into this, I haven't even gotten to say anything yet. Lorewalker Theater. It's the first thing I want to talk about. First of all, I want to admit that it was actually probably a mistake to go to get Final Fantasy IX for our second Lorewalker Theater. It was nice to get a lot of people involved, but the problem is I don't think I realized the enormous endeavor that FF9 would be for a theater project. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. Of course, I absolutely don't want to give up on it. That'd be ridiculous. And we do have several people, most of the main characters, who are committed and are going to be doing their lines regularly and repeatedly. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is once I finish this current batch of YouTube stuff, which will be the next thing I talk about, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get all of my side of things done. My side of things done.
I'm also going to be finishing my side of things very soon.
Okay. Well, awesome. I know you've been having tons and tons of time problems, so it's not like I blame you on that one. I mean, right now I'm working on YouTube stuff, so,
Exactly.
But, anyway, so what I'm thinking about doing is, first of all, thank you very much, Ice Trade. What would you like to put that towards? Thank you. Thank you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish all of my side of things. Now, to explain what I mean by that, I'm going to go ahead and do a thing where I record all of the footage, all the raw footage for the whole game. And I'm going to edit all the raw footage for the whole game. And I'm going to do the directorial notes for all of the footage of all the game. So in other words, it'll be at the point where basically I will have all of the directing work done and most of the initial editing work done to the point where I could just say, here, and voice actors can pick up lines and do them at will. That's what I'm going to go ahead and commit to as soon as I finish my current round of YouTubing. So that's going to take a while. It's going to take me several days, I'm sure, to get all that done, but I'm going to frickin' do it. I'm also going to be trying out my new method of directing. We'll see if that makes it a little bit less arduous and time-consuming. So once that's done, we'll basically be at a point where people will be able to submit lines, as quickly and as long as they can. Because I know some people are just more available when it comes to voice acting. So I liked the idea of getting those people involved because those people are basically done with all their lines at this point in time and are waiting for future footage to show up. So that will not be a problem. So that's where we're going at with the Loreweek Theater. The idea in general is to get all of the voice lines in that we can, which will probably be a decent chunk of them, and then we'll have NPC holes here and there, and then we'll try to fill those afterwards. That's kind of the plan, the goal here. Now, Ice Tray, put it towards Pokemon Chill Run. So jotted, thank you very, very much. So, next bit of news, as I mentioned, YouTubing. I am just absolutely smashing my face into the ground with YouTube. I actually got 5 episodes recorded yesterday, which isn't actually a record. My record's 7, but 5 is definitely above average. I have been absolutely cramming. Like, I wake up, go to the bathroom, heat up breakfast, and start working. And then I take a shower and go to bed. That's my life right now. And that's where I'm at. That's what I'm going to keep doing until I'm done. I currently have 38 episodes to finish. So that's the goal. At the bare minimum, I'm not going to stop until I at least have those 38 episodes done. Depending on how long it takes me to finish those 38 episodes, I might try to get a few more done. Maybe get like another month in. But that's my life right now. Absolutely trying to smash those YouTube videos out as much as I possibly can. Once that's done, I will do the Loreweek thing. I just mentioned that. And then I will be going ahead and switching back to streaming, which is what this Voot is about. We're going back to streaming full-time and streaming every day, or mostly every day. So make sure you vote on that to decide what we go back into. We're done, Adam. We beat RDR2 like last week. Like early last week. What else? I feel like there was one other thing, like us news-wise. I guess that's kind of it. I will be gone for Christmas, by the way. I'll be visiting my family in Vegas, so FYI. I'm only going to be gone for like 4 days. That's not a big deal. Okay, so I guess that's all of the us news. Let's go ahead and talk about elsewise news. So for those of you not aware, this is I don't really think like this is a whole topic, so I'm just going to mention this in brief. We actually had a lot of news this week. Lord of the Rings Online, which is an MMO that I've actually mentioned several times, has launched classic servers, basically. Lotro Vanilla. I have no idea why. Lotro Vanilla is still there, unchanged, so I'm not even sure what the purpose of that is, but whatever. Regardless, there's a thing, they call them legendary servers. It's all the 1 to 50 content, and it's basically everything up to Moria. The Mines of Moria was opened. So you can go do, the Balrog raid at level, or the Draco Lich raid at level, or whatever. I don't even know why this is a thing. I know that sounds so strange. But at the same time, not only has it been popular, it was so popular they had to open a second legendary server within the same day as the first one opening because so many people were on the legendary server. What's also funny is the fact that this has come out now. Like, this is actually already out, actively, right this very second. Whereas WoW Classic won't be out until, like, next summer. I just find that funny. I'm not throwing shade at Blizzard, quite the contrary. It just makes sense because Blizzard is basically having to redo WoW Vanilla to make it not crap, I'm not talking about the gaming content, but so much of the net code, and there were exploits and there were bugs, and they're trying to fix all that, and they should, and I'm with that, so they're still working on that, whereas Lotro, all they're doing is just rewinding it because their servers were fine at launch. But I found myself thinking as I was reading this news, I was like, why would anyone want to play this? Pause. I'm glad they're archiving it historically. Like, I just had both perspectives completely at the same time. Because on the one hand, it's like, well, okay, that makes perfect sense that they would try to archive this and make sure that they are preserving history, which is something that unfortunately is actually a problem with MMOs. Most MMOs in general are actually not archived or preserved, historically speaking. There's a reason that there's literally been a legal battle for the past couple of years over trying to have the legal right for museums to archive MMOs. So I'm glad that at least one of the dev companies out there is actually trying to do some of the job on their own right. Correct, Sonoshi, with regards to the WoW Classic thing. That is correct. Which is why the Lotro thing is weird, because all that old content's still there. It's not like there was a cataclysm for Lotro. Anyways, moving on. So, yeah. Let's talk finances. I know you guys love finances, right? That's all you care about. That's the only thing anyone cares about. So, something came across my radar because I've been researching Activision Blizzard stock over the last couple of weeks, ever since BlizzCon, to be more specific. And for those of you not aware, yes, Activision Blizzard stock has plummeted by about, I can math in my head, $14 a share. Now, that may or may not feel like a lot. Allow me to assure you, as someone who has been following the stock market for a long time.
Hell.
Yeah, $15 is, or $14, excuse me, is an absolutely ginormous drop. That is huge. Now, to be clear, a $3 drop is actually quite big. No, seriously. The catch is that a $3 drop is usually normal. If you ever actually follow a stock price range, what's very normal is this will happen. This is just the normal thing. It's kind of like, I know this is a weird analogy, but it's kind of like your weight. Hear me out. If you weighed yourself every minute in the day, you'd notice your weight just doing this, right? As you eat or go to the bathroom or drink a bunch of water or you retain liquid because you're bloated or whatever. It's not necessarily indicative of your actual weight. Make sense? That's why if you're actually trying to weigh yourself for health reasons or for losing weight reasons, you try to pick an exact point in the day to always weigh yourself to try and get something close to accurate. It's the same thing with stocks. So, is very normal. A $14 drop is not. This is officially the point in time at which we can say that Activision Blizzard stock has plummeted. That is a definitive fact we can say now. It's also a good time to buy if you want to. I know several people have been doing that. Several companies have been doing that, which is the real news I want to talk about. It's not just the fact that their stock plummeted. I don't care, really. Although, fun fact, I actually looked into it. If I divested all of my fluid savings into Blizzard Activision stock right now, I couldn't buy that many shares. I don't want to tell you the exact number, but it would not be a large number of shares because that's how the stocks work. However, if the stock then restored itself back to its previous price, I'd make a couple $1,000s off of that investment. I'm still debating if I want to do that, because it is gambling. As I've told everyone, the one and most important thing to think about when it comes to the stock market is that it is gambling. I know that it isn't legally gambling, but I don't care. It is a gamble. There's no such thing as a guaranteed return on investment. However, it's just something worth keeping in mind. It also reminded me of the old saying that you need money to make money, which is basically just valid and true. You actually need to be able... Like, for example, if I had $300,000 lying around right now to just dump into Blizzard stock, I actually probably would. Because there's actually a reasonable chance that sometime about, say, mid-next year, the stock will go ahead and rise back up again, at which point I will have gotten my sufficient, return on investment. But you need a large amount of money to invest to get a large amount of money back out of investing. I know that sounds so stupid. But again... That's money. That is the core rule of money. You have to have money to make money. There are precious few exceptions to that rule. But while I was looking into the stock, sorry, I haven't even gotten to my actual news point yet. Someone was talking about how Tencent owns a huge chunk of Activision Blizzard. I couldn't verify that. I found some other interesting things. I found out that the top owners of Activision Blizzard stock are, in order, Fidelity, which I'm sure some of you have heard of, Vanguard, who you probably haven't, BlackRock, who we're going to talk about, Capital World, who doesn't really matter, and State Street, who barely matters. Now, Fidelity owning an overwhelming chunk of it makes perfect sense. That's literally what Fidelity does. They buy stock and they sell it to their own customers. If you go and open a Fidelity account and you buy stock, what you're probably buying is Fidelity's chunk of that stock. That's how they do their business. So that's not surprising. Vanguard, well, Vanguard's definitely a active investor. Now, if you don't understand what I mean by that, when it comes to investing in stocks in publicly traded companies, there are two types of investors. There, specifically with regards to companies, I should clarify. That's hysterical. Oh, these are all money companies, every single one of these. I've talked before about the money people. Well, these are the money companies. Anyways, a passive investor is exactly what it sounds like. A passive investor is someone who is not interested in the company, they're interested in the stock, if that makes any sense. So, for example, let's say I had that 300 grand lying around and I dumped that into Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, and then I sold it next year because I was getting out of it. That would effectively make me a passive investor because all I care about is the stock itself, not the company. An active investor is someone who will actually send people, who owns enough of a share to send people to sit on the board, actually gets involved in company votes, and actively tries to push agendas to the company. In other words, they take an active interest in the fact that they own a part of the company. Make sense? Vanguard and BlackRock are both very active investors. Both of them have a huge history for many, many, many years of actually pushing to change company procedures and policies and try to push particular agendas through. Now, I don't have too much to say about Vanguard. By the way, hi, Sour Cookie. BlackRock is a shadow bank. Now, how many of you even know what that is? I'll just stop here for a second and take a drink because I've been talking a lot. I actually have the official definition of a shadow bank right here. I can give you my definition, but I'd like to just read here. The official definition is shadow banking is usually defined as comprising a diverse set of institutions and markets that collectively carry out traditional banking functions, but do so outside or in ways only loosely linked to traditional system of regulatory depository institutions. Now that may sound like a little bit of technobabble, but let me just shrink that down a bit. It's a bank that isn't legally a bank. And that means they do not have to follow banking regulations. That's what a shadow bank is. Mortgage companies, money market funds, asset-backed commercial paper conduits, repurchasable agreement groups, investment banks, which is what BlackRock is. These are shadow banks. You with me? This is a fairly common thing, by the way. So, BlackRock is a shadow bank. Oh no, it's perfectly legal. Because they're not actually a bank. Yeah, shadow banking is quite legal. I've never heard anyone trying to do anything as far as governmental oversight over shadow banking. But I am definitely going to say hello to Cesara. Thank you very, very much, as ever, for your support. I do much appreciate it. Would you like to put that towards anything? Yeah, I made a statement several weeks ago that there was a certain incident which was a rare occurrence of both illegal and immoral. And a few people laughed at that, but the problem is it's really actually kind of rare that something is both illegal and immoral. Because things that are illegal usually aren't moral or immoral, and things that are immoral are usually perfectly legal. Life! Anyways, BlackRock is the only one that really caught my eye. I mean, all of those are financial institutions, and between them they own... hang on, let me do a little math off the top of my head. 14, 22... 39. Amongst those 5 companies I just mentioned, they own 39% of Activision Blizzard. Now, that may or may not sound significant, and if it doesn't sound significant, then you don't understand how stocks work. It's okay, I know a lot of people don't really get it because it's a deliberately confusing system. Basically, if you own 3% of a company by yourself, you own a huge chunk of that company. I know that sounds strange. I know it really does. But majority share just means you own the biggest chunk. And in several cases, the biggest chunk can be in the single digit. There are plenty of situations, historically speaking, where someone has owned a majority share of a company by owning like 7% of a company. Each of these companies I just mentioned have upwards of 4% of the company in their ownership. BlackRock in particular, the one I was talking about, owns 7.41% at last check, which was this morning. And by this morning, I mean Saturday morning, so I guess Friday evening's conclusion point. Yeah, no kidding, hazardous. So anyways, yeah, that's an absolutely gargantuan chunk. By the way, Fidelity owns 14%. But again, I go back to that whole point about them being active investors, which means, especially BlackRock, I'm not sure about the others, but especially BlackRock, is very big about actively investing and trying to push Blizzard and Activision Blizzard into new directions. Now, I don't know how much that has an impact on anything they've been doing over the past couple of years. I know, right. By the way, yeah, I love the fact that a company called BlackRock owns a huge share, the third biggest share of Activision Blizzard. But anyways, so I don't know if this is related to any of the decisions Activision and Blizzard have been making over the last years. I really don't. I have no direct corollary. But I wanted to report on the facts, which is what I have told you, because I find this very interesting. By the way, if you look up BlackRock, you'll find that this company is scum. It is one of the scummiest shadow banking companies I've ever heard of. They really like to invest in things like weapons manufacture, bullets. They like to push the military-industrial complex. They have a lot of investments in that category. They also... well, let's just stop. You can look into BlackRock if you want to. But that's the kind of stuff they do. And again, active investor. They push stuff. Possibly, Rex. Possibly. You got it, Tazara. Actually, kind of, yeah, Adam. Like, if you picture the 90s businessman, like, stereotype. Like, you remember how many films came out in the 90s where the corporate guy was the bad guy? You remember that, right? That's BlackRock right there. Anywho. So, orcs in business suits. There has been a theory, and this theory actually has more strength than it should, that there are certain companies that that have actively been pushing certain decisions by Activision Blizzard in order to tank the stock, in order to buy a larger portion of the company. Now, you may say, well, that's just stuff for fiction, but that actually happens in real life. It is actually a relatively normal method by which to try and invest in a significantly larger portion of a company. In this exact case, given how many companies have been divesting themselves and reinvesting themselves in Activision Blizzard over the last month or so, I actually think that's pretty likely. I legitimately think there is some legitimacy behind that theory in this case. Especially since Tencent actually has been divesting themselves of Activision Blizzard, which is very interesting. Because, if for those of you not aware, Tencent, who is a Chinese company I've mentioned several times before, actually held almost 4% of the stock of Activision Blizzard up until about a month ago. They don't anymore. They've divested them. That means they've sold out. They've reduced their ownership of shares. Make of that what you will. Like I said, this is all... I'm trying to present facts and speculation separate to make this very clear. I don't know what's exactly happening at war, and I don't exactly know why. All I can give you is the facts that I'm aware of. Let's talk about Square-Enix briefly. I'm not going to talk about FF15 yet, and I'm not going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 yet, because honestly I feel that's a separate category. And, well, because I want to talk about that with Rax. But first I want to talk about something that Square Enix has said. Now, I've got the article somewhere. I've got 7,000 tabs up right now, because there's actually a lot of news this week. It's really strange. So, During the recent earnings report from Square Enix, they mentioned that their core HD games business was going to that their core HD games business was going to go in a specific direction, and I quote, "Digital sales have increased the life cycle of their games, and as such, post-launch content and support is more significant than ever. The company plans to adopt subscription models in order to expand earnings opportunities." Again, specifically referring to their traditional console and handheld games, not the MMOs, not the mobile games. So you can see why I'm mentioning this in the financial section. Because Square Enix actually reported...
Can anyone say bad idea?
Because Square Enix actually reported a significant loss right about at this point, in this particular earnings call. And this could mean something. This could also just be fluff. I know that sounds strange. But what I mean by that is, if you are walking in front of a bunch of money people at an earnings call where there's a bunch of representatives from companies like the ones I just mentioned and a bunch of investors present, you say, hey, we're reporting a loss, you need to tell them something else in order to kind of mitigate that. To be like, no, it's okay. I mean, you know, we took a loss this quarter, but we have this idea for bringing in, you know, new money revenue sources. It'll be cool. So it is possible that this is, as some people in chat are saying, a smokescreen. I mention that because the very idea of doing a subscription model for, let me use a direct example, Kingdom Hearts 3, a game that's not out yet, isn't just ludicrous. It actively doesn't make sense. Right? I mean, there's a logical disconnect between those two things. The only way they could do kind of a subscription model is if they either went completely hog wild into stupid land, in which case they're basically renting out their games rather than selling them, which there are games that are the gaming companies are trying to do that right now. Or they're trying to do a thing where you subscribe to, like, you know, the Kingdom Hearts subscription, which gives you, you know, the DLC content that they push out over time. Something like that. We'll see. We'll see. I really don't know. I can't gauge this. As I've said several times before, Square Enix is a hard company to predict. Because even from a corporate side, what they do isn't coherent. Square Enix corporate doesn't actually make logical sense. I know that sounds strange, but trust me, as someone who's been following their financial career for years and years, they're just going in weird directions sometimes for seemingly no reason. So I have no idea if this is something they're actually going to do, or if this is just them throwing up a smokescreen, or whatever. I really don't know. Anyways, I do want to say one quick thing, because I do have a small topic here. I was one of those people who was in favor of the idea of additional content for an existing game, for the same basic reason that I've been in favor of expansions since forever. I mean, right? I like expansions. I like the very concept of expansions. You can overdo an expansion, but I do think that we've made the game, now let's produce more content for it, is a logical thing, financially and creatively. Creatively, we get more of the game. Financially, it's cheaper and easier for them to make. Boom, boom. So I'm okay on the base concept of the idea of continuing to produce content for a game. I do think there's a limit. Like there's a certain point at which you need to move on to the next game. Sims 3, excuse me. But at the same time, I'm not against the idea at the baseline. And I mentioned this because I've heard several people say that this is in direct reaction to FF15, which we'll talk about later. I'm not going to segue into that because I got more financial news. So, you know, oh my god, of course we're going to make tons and tons of little expansion DLCs for FF15. Woo! We'll see. We'll see what they do with it. I really don't know. Let's move on to our next point here, which is Microsoft. You guys like Microsoft, right? Exclusive. How many of you guys have ever heard of any of the following companies? The Initiative, Undead Labs, Playground Games, Compulsion Games, or Ninja Theory? Anybody? We actually talked about this during E3 of this year, because during Microsoft's E3 presentation, they actually went out of their way to mention this. This is actually something that Microsoft has been doing for the better part of 2 years now. You know, as of the end of this year, it'll basically be 2 years. What Microsoft has been doing has been reaching out and buying out as many gaming companies as they can, including all of the ones I just mentioned. Those are all acquisitions as of this year. So I mentioned that because Microsoft buying up gaming companies in order to try and push more things onto their platforms, specifically the Xbone and Microsoft 10, or Windows 10, excuse me, is not new. That's normal. It's something they've already been doing. It's something they've already been publicly opening. This isn't like some clandestine thing. They're like, hey! And so what's funny is I actually mentioned the fact that they were buying Obsidian like 3 or 4 weeks ago, because that's when the money started moving in order to make that purchase happen. I just find that funny because I think I have a unique perspective when it comes to gaming news, in that I tend to follow the money news more than the gaming news, and so I tend to notice some things before other people. But anyways, regardless of the fact that I got there first, like several people are like, oh my god, they're buying Obsidian. I was like, yeah, I thought I already reported on this. So again, this is not news. Microsoft has concluded the purchase of Obsidian, which I've already mentioned, which we knew was coming for weeks now. And they have also concluded the purchase of inExile, which is another excellent company, which I really hope that we do actually get Wasteland 3 for. So Microsoft owns Obsidian now. Before I say anything else, do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing? Before I go, I have some thoughts on this. And of course, we're still in the financial section, so this is going to be financial thoughts. Let me go ahead and say the obvious. Yes, actually is the one. Let me go ahead and say the obvious. I do like Obsidian games. In fact, I'm not even sure I can name an Obsidian game I don't like. Probably the Obsidian game I like the least would actually probably be Pillars of Eternity. The first one. I haven't played the second one. What? I like Neverwinter Nights 2 is probably my favorite Obsidian game, although I'll admit there's several games towards the top of that list that kind of bundle up together. Oh, New Vegas 2 was never happening. That's on Bethesda more than anything at this point. So my point in bringing this up really quick here is that, from a financial perspective, this is probably a bad thing. Now let me explain why. Obsidian is not a financially successful company. Anybody who is even tangentially aware of Obsidian knows that they have been in financially dire straits for the entirety of their existence. Obsidian Entertainment has never been truly financially successful. Quite literally never. At best, they have occasionally been solvent, but they've never actually had true financial success. Now, to me, that is a goddamn shame. Excuse my language. Because this is Obsidian. There's a reason so many people casually say that Obsidian is one of the best developers out there. That they are an amazing game developer company. That they produce amazing games. There's a reason why my least favorite Obsidian game is still a good game. Pillars of Eternity. Or at least half of a good game. Right? Stick of Truth, Neverwinter Nights 2, KOTOR 2, New Vegas, Alpha Protocol, which I thankfully more and more people are getting aware of that game, because that was actually a surprisingly good game. Bug-ridden, but good. You know? Tyranny, which in my opinion was just better than Pillars of Eternity. So I'm just saying Tyranny's better. Just saying, bye Tyranny. So my point being, it's a damn shame, because what is effectively happening here, and I admit I have a little bit of a personal stake in this, is Obsidian is making trout-flavored yogurt. For those of you who don't understand the analogy, trout-flavored yogurt refers to a concept where you have a niche market. Now, you may make the best damned trout-flavored yogurt that there is. It just absolutely blows all other competitors out of the water. But there's just not... There just is a finite limit to which trout-flavored yogurt's market is. Like, there's some people who are just not going to like it. It's going to be coffee for them, right? Like it or not, CRPGs are a niche market. That is just a financial fact. That is a historical financial fact. Any of the CRPGs historically that have actually bypassed that particular boundary have done so as an exclusion, or not, as an exception, excuse me. God, I'm losing my words today. You know, those are the exceptions, not the rules. Yeah, like Telltale was. That's exactly right. There's just a finite market for this type of thing. Now, this is why I'm saying that this purchase by Microsoft is probably a bad thing, because there's only two ways, really, that this can go. Either Microsoft will give them money in order to produce games that are good, and more or less accept that they will barely make their money back, or not make their money back, which is possible. There is a financial reason for doing that. Or Microsoft will force them to make games that make more money, which will slowly destroy the company and the quality of the games coming out. Which do you think will happen? Honest question. Because, honestly, both are possible. Really. Also, all I'm going to say about that is Lionhead Studios, which was destroyed in basically the exact same manner. So, again, even from a purely financial perspective, I think this is a bad thing. We'll see. Really, we'll see. It depends on... I'm pretty sure we could safely say that whatever their next project is will kind of help showcase... yes and no, Adam. Basically, the answer is no. We'll actually be able to correct Hazardous. See where Microsoft is taking Obsidian and inExile based on the next game they put out. Now, speaking of which, can I just cross my fingers here really quick? For those of you not aware, I've actually been following the development of Wasteland 3 from inExile for some time. Over a year, actually. Probably not in RLX. And I really hope we still get Wasteland 3. And I really hope it's still good. Even though I had significant issues with Wasteland 2, I was still excited for the game, and there was some obvious quality on display. And I was really hopeful for Wasteland 3, so... you know? We'll see. Yeah. So, oh yeah, this reminds me of another thing here. That is a possibility, Savicom, but they would not be the same type of games they make. If that makes any sense. It would be, in other words, they would make them make other types of games than CRPGs and whatnot. Obsidian has no upcoming games that I am aware of. If anybody else is aware of them, please feel free to share. But last I checked, they did Pillars of Eternity 2, and then the end going forward. There's one other thing I do want to mention here really quick. I hate exclusives. And the older I get, the more I've been thinking that. I know that sounds so stupid, and I know people are going to hate me for that, but the older I get, the more I get against the very concept of exclusives. Even acknowledging that there are good financial reasons. Rax, is there any chance I could get you to mute yourself? Even acknowledging that there are legitimate financial reasons for exclusives. There's even legitimate creative reasons. It's okay. There's even legitimate creative reasons for exclusives. The old and most common good thing about an exclusive is that an exclusive will allow a game to basically spend more time and effort on making the game better. That is the big positive of an exclusive. We have 3 games this year that showcase that, all of which are on the PS4, actually. So I'm with that. I do get that, but at the same time, as I've said so many times, there are just so many issues when it comes to exclusives. Timed exclusives is a much grayer category. But the older I get, the more anti-exclusive I tend to get. And I bring this up because, let's say they make Alpha Protocol 2. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, the mere fact that they're making if they were making an Alpha Protocol 2, that sounds awesome to me. I liked Alpha Protocol, and I would love to see them do more with that setting and that type of game, because it was far more of a branching game than was really sane, to be completely honest with you. So if they were doing that, yeah! And it's Windows 10 exclusive. Oh. Huh. Right? Enthusiasm gone. I guess ignoring the financial sector from a purely creative perspective, from a purely gamer perspective, I can't see this as a good thing, purely because it's almost guaranteed that anything these companies make in the future will be a game I will not be functionally capable of playing. So, yay. And you don't need to defend Windows 10. Let's not get into that argument again. I feel like I've said so many times my problems with Windows 10. It's not like it's Windows ME. But I don't have Windows 10, and hopefully I never will. Financially successfully without being destroyed? Nintendo. I mean, I'm sorry. Nintendo has been financially successful, creatively successful, and is not destroying themselves as a company. Nintendo makes some goddamn stupid mistakes. Don't misunderstand. Nintendo does some stupid stuff that pisses me off. But, you know. Anyways, we'll see. I feel like that's the third time that this day I've been saying, we'll see. Thank you very, very much, Hariant. As ever, much appreciate your support of the Sexy Brutal. There's a lot of people who've been putting towards that. So that's actually probably one of the first premiere runs we do, because so many people have been presenting it. Well, hang on. And Hariant's comment has already scrolled off the screen. Give me a second here. Do you have an example, Hariant? Because I'm not sure what you mean exactly. I'm sorry, Corrales. I want to say one last thing about the Obsidian thing. There's a fairly well-known, well-repeated interview by... Oh, Jesus, I can't think of his name all of a sudden. The Obsidian writer. You probably know who I'm talking about. The guy who's renowned as one of the best writers in gaming. And he is a good writer. I can't think of his name. 317 Hazardous. Someone's going to say it's Chris Avalon. Thank you. Chris Avalon has a very well-repeated interview where he talks about how Obsidian's management is mind-numbingly stupid, basically. He's very blunt about it. And while that's entirely possible, I have to admit that that interview was done based on information that at this point is years out of date. And I'm not really sure how accurate that is. I know that sounds like a strange thing to mention, but I bring it up because a lot of people I've noticed in response to the Obsidian purchase news have been saying, well, Avalon said they were badly managed for years, so this is just a duh. I'm not sure there's necessarily a one-to-one connection there. I know that sounds strange because I don't actually have information. I don't have absolute truth. I can't just ping the universe and say, what is this? And give me some statistics. Because I don't know if bad management is the cause of Obsidian's financial issues. I don't. I do know that their market is only so big. That is a fact. That's something we know because it's not just exclusive to Obsidian. But I don't know if they'd be financially successful if their management was better. Then again, as I've said many times, what basically every company in the world needs is a good financier who is not trying to screw over the company for their own ends. And those people apparently don't freaking exist, so... yeah... I suppose that would depend, Hariant. I mean, personally, for example, I don't like playing RTSs without a mouse and keyboard. However, I know several people who have played PS1 and N64 RTSs just fine, so... I suppose it depends on how well it's ported. A good port is something that's a valued thing, too. I mean, right? I'm told by many people, I haven't played it myself, that Diablo 3 on the PS4 is actually really good. Because they did the effort to make it a good port rather than just dropping the game onto the console. So... Next point. Let's talk about some Disney news. You guys like Disney, right? I hope you guys like Disney because Disney likes Disney. I'm sorry. I just suddenly thought of Wall-E, right? Big and large. Everything is big and large. This omnipresent company. It's kind of where Disney's trying to go. They've actually been quite smart, as absolutely horrible as that sounds, in the way that they're trying to diversify and get to the point where they own a lot of several different things. So antitrust lawsuits are much more difficult to be thrown at them, given the fact that they have so divested their investments. Anyways, Disney has bought me. They gave me $11 million, so Disney is love. Disney is like, so we're going to be covering nothing but like MCU, Star Wars. I guess that's it. That's going to be the rest of the show forever, guys. I hope you're cool with that. No. What I'm actually going to talk about is the fact that Disney finally made an official announcement about about a few details of their new streaming service, which is going live next year. That's going to be Dislore. I like it. Dislore. It's going to be called Disney Plus. They mentioned a few things. There's 2 notes in here that are newsworthy in my opinion. First of all, they're doing a new series following Cassian Andor. I'm going to stop right there. How many of you have any idea who that is? Yeah, it's the dude. It's the rebel spy from Rogue One. They're doing a new live-action TV series centered around him, which actually sounds kind of cool, if I'm being completely blunt. I do like the idea of a spy thriller set in Star Wars. Like, legitimately, I think there's real potential there. In fact, I think it's something that has been a favorite aspect of mine of a couple of Star Wars books. Shadows of the Empire comes to mind immediately. So I feel like that's a itch that could be scratched, as long as they don't over-scratch it. The only downside is, because it's specifically following him, spoilers, it has to happen before Rogue One. That's all I'm going to say about that. Basically, I personally think that is a mistake. Not a huge mistake, just a mistake. Now, the actor's good, and I like the character, but my point is, Rogue One happened. In my personal opinion, I would prefer to have that set pretty much right after the Battle of Yavin. The period in between the Battle of Yavin and the Battle of Endor was an interesting period for the Rebellion. It was actually pretty much the point in time in which the Rebellion actually was an actual threat, a real problem, both in the EU and the AU. And I think that would be a good time to set this kind of a spy thriller in. No, he is not, Rax. I actually looked into that specifically. Because I think there's a lot of potential for that period of time. Instead, this is going to be set obviously earlier in the Solo era, basically in the era in between Solo and Rogue One. So in kind of the same period of time relatively as Rebels. Now that's interesting in his own right, because actually several people have noticed if they play their cards right, this could kind of this could follow through on Solo, the movie, which is something I'd be in favor of. And this could also tie into Rebels, which would be something I'd be in favor of. And it's worth noting that if they do indeed, well, I shouldn't say, because they are setting this in between Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One, they have the possibility of bringing Saw Gerrera into this show. And it's worth noting that, I can't think of his name, has already mentioned several times he'd be willing to come back and play Saw again if asked to. So, that's kind of cool. So, like I said, it's not like the worst possible time period they could have picked it in. I find it interesting that they decided to go for that particular era. Yeah, exactly, Harian. Forrest Whitaker, thank you, Forrest Whitaker. Couldn't think of his name. Apparently he voices Saw in Rebels. Again, I still haven't watched Rebels. We're not at that point in the Many Nations yet. I mean, that sounds cool to me, Adam, but then again, I like a good military drama. I liked Space Above and Beyond. So, we'll see. We'll see. I'm actually kind of positively inclined towards this. Like, definitely a net positive. It's like, yeah, okay, I've got some concerns, but I'm with it. Cool. And of course, as several people pointed out, Cassian himself is not a good person. He is trying to do good, but he is pretty much a straight up, a Garak type character, someone who is more than willing to lie and kill and steal and be filled with fear, basically. Thank you very, very much, Bugfuggler. If you would like to put that towards anything in particular, just let me know. I don't know if Rebels has been funded. Someone go check the website, because I honestly don't remember right now. I've been working on the YouTube stuff, which I guess technically includes the Mini-Nations, but I've been working on the main YouTube stuff. I got 38 episodes of main YouTube stuff. Then I got to finish up the Mini-Nations. Then I got to work on the theater. Then I can start streaming. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm interested. I really am. The other show that they 100% confirmed. Now this is. I love you, SJ. The other thing that was 100% confirmed is the Loki show from the MCU. It will actually include Tom Hiddleston. Now I mentioned that because we kind of thought that there would be a Scarlet Witch. I can't remember her name. A Scarlet Witch and a Loki show. Both of those were something that were rumored, but neither was actually confirmed. This has now been 100% confirmed. There will be a Loki show. It will have Tom Hiddleston. It's going to be about 8 or so episodes, and they're going to be flinging movie-level budget at the show. Wanda, thank you, that's her name, Wanda. All I can say about a Loki TV show, even like a TV miniseries, is yes! So I'm very excited about that. I'm very, yeah, exactly, Adam. I am very, very excited about that. They have not said any details about when it's said specifically, unfortunately. Yes, Kevin Feige is going to be in charge of several of these as well, by the way. He's already mentioned that. Now, they also mentioned a couple other things, which I'm just going to showcase here really quick. No, Savacom. So, Valerian, what the hell? God damn it, Valerian. You better make way more money than me, Valerian. That's all I'm saying. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for your support. My sister actually had to talk with me last week because I was getting so depressed and lack of self-esteem that it was getting difficult to accomplish anything. And it is nice to have little moments like knowing that people like you don't just support me by saying you like me, but support me in a literal, tangible way. And I very much appreciate that. Thank you. As I like to say, it is one thing to say I care about you. It's another thing to do something to showcase that care. No shade, of course, intended to anybody who does not do. But I'm just saying that someone who says and does means more to me. That's the whole definition of Arshan Gaia, after all, if you remember. So thank you, Emperor Valerian. Anyways. Where's my news? I lost my news. Here we go. So I've already jotted that down. He just put that towards Dying Light. I'm actually excited about Dying Light, so woo. The other projects that have been confirmed in this announcement about Disney Plus include stories that are going to be set in the Monsters, Inc. setting, which actually I'm kind of in favor of that idea. I think there's some good story potential for Monsters, Inc. in like a televised thing. And thank you, Trickster's Lab. Thank you very, very much. Would you like to put that towards anything? High School Musical is apparently getting a show. The Mandalorian is obviously something that they're very much pushing. And that's it. Those are the only ones that are actually confirmed so far. Now, I mentioned that. I want to say something really quick. For those of you not aware, Disney has many times done a thing where they've done a TV show about a movie, and approximately 100% of the time, those TV shows have sucked. I'm hoping that this is not that. I really am, because I'm one of those people who actually firmly believes in the creative value of the medium of television, of an episodic visual presentation. And I am hopeful that they will actually start to do good shows rather than... I will never forget, probably the worst one for me personally. Well, no, actually that's not true. The worst one for me personally was actually probably Aladdin. But the second worst one for me personally was The Emperor's New Groove, where Yeah. So, we'll see. We'll see. I'm one of those weird people who liked Monsters, Inc. too. Hate me if you want. I thought it was a good film. Hell, I even thought it ended brilliantly. Like, I really do. It was actually probably one of the most awesome endings to a Disney flick I've seen in a long time. But anyways, moving on. That's Disney Plus. Woo, that's a thing. It's supposed to launch late 2019, by the way. I should clarify that. Yeah, there are several people who disliked Monsters... Okay, what was it called? The, hang on. Monsters, Inc. 2. Monsters University. I know several people who really disliked Monsters University. I was not one of those people. But anyways. Other news. I already mentioned the Loki show. I already talked about the Cassian show. Yep, that's it. No more news today. No, of course. Let's talk about the other thing. Yes, you did, Valvedrix. Let's talk about FF15 and Tabata. If you want to unmute yourself now, Rax, this would be a time to do that. In fact, actually, hang on. Let me pull this up over here. So yeah,
Could you unmute yourself?
I was gonna say I'm gonna unmute myself here so you can mute the stream, and so
Perfect.
we can be time synced here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Rax here, joining by voice ghost haunting.
Ooh.
Oh God. None, Adam. I'm not streaming games for the next month or so, maybe 2. I'm working on YouTube stuff. That's my goal. As soon as I finish this stream, I'm going right back to working on YouTube stuff. Anyways, so let me just go ahead and get out a couple of facts really quick before we discuss this. FF15 has canceled most of its plans, other than the one for the Ardent episode, and Tabata has left Square entirely. Now, I want to stress the way I say that, because for those of you who know, our Square-Enix is actually a bit of an umbrella company nowadays, and has multiple divisions and sub-companies underneath it. He is leaving all of that. He is completely abandoning Square-Enix.
Yeah, previously he was part of their new studio, Luminous Productions. Now he's just gone.
Yep.
He's starting his own studio, effectively.
Yep. Now, the one fact that most interests me is the one I have not been able to confirm, and that's which of these events happened first. I have heard multiple people imply that Tabata left and then they canceled the DLCs, or that they canceled the DLCs which made Tabata left. But I have not heard any 100% confirmation either way, so I don't know which happened first.
I don't know which happened first either, but it would make sense to me that Tabata leaves and then they cancel it because, they lose their project lead.
Well, yeah.
Because, if they cancel it and Tabata leaves, that doesn't make any sense because FF15 has been financially successful throughout its entire lifetime.
I just realized I need to turn you up a little bit. There we go. Turn this down a little bit. There we go. Sorry. You guys can hear him all right, right?
Testing. Can you guys hear me?
We'll find out in 30 seconds.
My voice sounds different. Hang on, let me see if I'm broadcasting through the correct microphone.
I mean, I can hear you fine, but no, I'm on headphones.
Yeah, no, I'm broadcasting through my Yeti. So.
Okay. Yeah, so... Gosh, where to start on this one? First of all, if he left, then they canceled the DLCs, the biggest and most powerful question is, why did he leave? Now, obviously, he is a Japanese businessman, which means he doesn't tell the truth when it comes to why he does stuff. They've got a whole thing about that in Japan. The whole keep things under the hood, keep things on the lid, that kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
That's a very common thing, unfortunately. And that means that we don't really have a lot of details on exactly why he left. Hang on a second. I meant to pull this up, and I apparently didn't. But I actually have his I'm leaving speech, like right here. There we go. It's long, so give me a second. It's been almost going on 2 years since the release of FF15. I honestly believe the reason we were able to get this far is because of all you loyal fans. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Stop. First of all, I think he means that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
he's always been much more connected with the fans than most of their project.
Absolutely. Tabata has been really big on fan interaction in a positive way, so good on him for that. Today, I have a personal announcement to make to all of you. I, Hajime Tabata, probably pronouncing that wrong, will be resigning from Luminous Productions and the Square-Enix Group as of October 31st, 2018. I was able to gain so much experience with my time at Square-Enix. Every title I was able to be a part of means a lot to me. However, FF15 stood out from that group as it was a special project for me, which I went all in. Therefore, I've decided to take this opportunity to officially announce my departure from FF15 to all the fans who supported the title across the globe. In regards to my next endeavor in the near future, I have a project that I wish to solidify as my next challenge after FF15. For that reason, I've decided to leave my current position and start my own business in order to achieve my goal. Pause. Now, the reason I pause there is because I actually have a very strong impression that Square Enix corporate was something he couldn't deal with anymore, and he just bailed.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, no, in fact, to be completely blunt, if we see news about this, say, next year from Nomura, that also won't surprise me.
Yeah.
Because as we've talked about, and as Brax has talked about before, the corporate politics in Square Enix are fairly cutthroat and unpleasant.
Oh my god, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you could probably say that about a lot of companies. I suppose I should say that I am more aware of Square Enix's corporate politics than I am several other companies.
So I notice in chat a lot of people are saying, well, I wish he'd finished FF15. I wish that he'd been able to finish it before he left. They are planning on doing something to finish it. I believe they said they wanted to do an animated series or something along those lines to tie up, Aranea, Luna, and Noctis's DLCs in a different format. So, I mean, we'll take what we can get, I suppose.
Yeah, pretty much.
There is also going to be an Arden animated thing before the release of that DLC, so...
Yeah, we'll see. I also have to agree with something that Aethel said earlier, not the Nomura thing, but he said, let's be honest, he did make something out of a terrible development, and I agree. I have actually been in a similar position to what Tabata was when FF15 was handed to him. I've been that person. Here's a broken project. You got 2 weeks. Huh?
Oh, I've been on the receiving end of that.
As I say, most people who've lived in any kind of corporate society, and when I say lived, I mean worked in a corporate society, has probably had that happen to them at some point or another.
Yeah.
No, I agree, Adam. By the way, I say Adam to Adam Escamanalo, and I say Agamemnon to the other one, just to make it clear who I'm referring to. Anyways, to continue, as production of episode Arden continues and Luminous Productions works on new projects, I felt it was time for me to hand over the torch to a new generation group of talented and trustworthy colleagues and believe that they will create something amazing. So that's just corporate speak. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
From this day on, I will cheer and support Square Enix and Luminous Productions together with all you fans. Translation, I'm out! Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to finish up. I would like to thank everyone who continued to support FF15 and those who have supported myself personally, which, again, I think is genuine.
Mm-hmm. So it's worth noting that this year Square Enix has... I'm going to talk about the loss that Laura actually mentioned that led to the whole subscription-based thing. That loss has primarily been attributed to Luminous Productions itself.
Yeah.
So who knows what they're going to do with that part of the company. However, they have said they're going to repurpose the FF15 dev team to, I think they said working on new AAA IP, but details on that are a bit vague.
Non-existent, really.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, hi, Extremes.
One thing that really bugs me about this is, with Tabata leaving and everything like that, what's going to happen with stuff like FF Type next? Is he going to take the creative ideas of that and repurpose it to a new project under his new studio? Or, because if that's where he's starting from, that's a pretty good starting point.
Personally, I'm hopeful that what he will do is what any good creator of any kind does and say, all right, well, after that mess, I've learned a lot of lessons, and I'd really like to do something slightly more ambitious. And start off from the ground up with the project in mind, rather than trying to Frankenstein the project together with what he had.
Well, I mean, it could be similar to a Death Stranding situation. That was, it was sort of Frankenstein from Silent Hills, but not really.
No, yeah, no, that definitely is something that he really wanted to do. Also, I want to address something really quick, since we have done several financial talks today. Square Enix reported a loss of $30 million, and as Rax just pointed out, Square is trying to put a lot of the blame on that on Luminous Productions. I think that's a lie. I, I don't have any hard evidence of that, but based on the way they present that information, it feels a lot like a typical corporate strategy of, this is the problem, and we're working on all these other things to fix it.
Though, that said, new studios basically always report a loss in the beginning.
True. Yeah.
So
that's normal.
I mean, yeah, it's probably part of the reason, but it's nowhere near the main reason. I'd say.
Yeah, I don't either. Now, one other thing that's interesting is apparently Tomb Raider 3, let's just call it what it is, apparently undersold. I've been trying to find more specific facts about that, and all I could tell is that it feels like another situation like Tomb Raider 1.
I was gonna say they want the Tomb Raider reboot money.
Exactly. And as near as I can tell, Tomb Raider 3 actually sold just fine. It just didn't sell however much they wanted it to. So, make of that what you will. I mean, this is the same company that has had that exact same problem before with that exact same franchise. This is also the company that has been surprised twice, by the way, that there's a market for JRPGs. So, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, you guys remember, they said that this year, again. A few months ago. Oh my god. We didn't realize there was such a market for JRPGs when Octopath sold out. So I don't know what. Like I said, it's actually legitimately hard to predict Square-Enix sometimes because they just make no damn sense. Anyways, so just to give my own thoughts, and I want you to give your thoughts too, Rex. So let me do it, and then you do it. My impressions, my thoughts, my feelings. First of all, good. Get out of there, Tabata. Jesus Christ, get out of that goddamn company, excuse my language, and get out there and do something better with your life. I am looking forward to whatever he makes next. Just right off the bat. I'm already interested in it.
Following it as close as I did Kojima.
Absolutely. I will also say, with regards to the whole FF15 thing, I do think it's a shame we won't get the rest of the episodes. I'm glad we'll be getting Arden. I have no idea if Arden will be any good. I mean, right now, for me personally, their track record is weird. Like, Gladiolus Salalo, however you say his damn name, was okay, I guess. I didn't really care for it. I will play it again for the stream. That's it. Noctis was pretty decent. There were some really good moments in there, but then it also kind of sucked. Ignis was amazing.
Yeah.
Ignis
was just across the board really good.
Yeah, it's just... So their track record is weird, so I'm not even sure what to make at this point of what's going to happen with Arden. Hopeful? You know?
Well, they've been trending up in quality in terms of the DLCs, and it looks interesting from both a story perspective and a gameplay perspective. So.
That is true. I'm not even sure who else is left at this point, Aethel. I know there's a couple of 90s Square left in Square-Enix.
Yeah, I know that... I think Ito is still around. I think Kitase, Nojima...
I know Kitase is still around.
Yeah. Actually, no, I know Kitase, Nojima, and Nomura are still around because they're working on the remake for FF7. Otherwise, I'm not sure.
That might actually be it at this point. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Noctis? I meant Prompto. I meant Prompto. Sorry. They're the same character, basically. So anyways, that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Rax, on this whole thing?
Well, like I said, I'm going to be following Tabata closely, but I really wish that they would have just either A, ended it at Ignis in terms of the DLCs, or been able to just finish it under a new director, because the person who is actually directing the Arden DLC is not Tabata. They've been outsourcing these things to various smaller teams within Square-Enix in order to actually manage them. So I don't see why they couldn't have at least wrapped them up.
I agree. In total frankness, I agree. Mm-hmm. I feel like they just decided to cut it and say screw it rather than trying to fix it, which is funny because that's a normal company thing to do, but Square-Enix actually has a bit of a record of trying to stick with it and make it better. 14, excuse me. And I don't know. I feel like this was a bit of a stockholder situation more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. But speaking towards the departure itself, I do hope Nomura gets out of there, personally, to just kind of segue. Because as much as I like Kingdom Hearts, as much as I'd like it to continue, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a good stopping point, and I'd like Nomura to be able to more freely, do what he wants with his own ideas, rather than being tied up in all those corporate politics.
Yeah, agreed. We'll see, I suppose. By the way, as a quick reminder, speaking of Kingdom Hearts 3, the Kingdom Hearts 3 vote will be happening in about 3 weeks, the beginning of December. Everyone be aware of that. Be thinking about what you want for that to go. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. The vote will go live in December. But I know some of you know what I'm talking about, including the person listening to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of Kingdom Hearts 3, let me get a new timestamp here really quick. So, we got a new Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer. Now, I gotta be honest, unlike some other channels who are fully focused on Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff, I haven't been reporting on all the Kingdom Hearts 3 news. Like the Tangled trailer, there's nothing to talk about there. This trailer, there is.
Yeah.
So if you'll permit me, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I've got this set up properly.
By the way, just a warning for anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, there are endgame story spoilers here, so be warned.
Yep, super spoilers warning. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Spoiler, spoiler. Boop. Oop, wrong thing. That's the band hammer. No! Wrong thing. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to play this on mute because I literally have to, but I'll be saying what they say just in case you can't read the captions. So, so this is Tangled, and she says, "I'm not scared anymore. You know what I mean?" And he says, "Well, yeah, I'm starting to." And then they're like, "Oh," and they fall in love.
Twoo
Love. So there's Winnie the Pooh. "I want us to be together for..." I can't do a Winnie the Pooh voice. "I want us to be together forever." "Well, what matters is I'll be here from now on." Pointing to Winnie the Pooh's heart. And then Pence decides to jump kick Handsome the Seeker of Dark. I'm sorry. It's
just dynamic entry.
Yeah. Oh my god. All right, anyways. So then we cut to two people who may or may not be Demix and Vexen. We'll talk about this later, but what we presume Demix is saying is, "I'm useless. I'm chicken. We're not friends. I can count the number of times you and I have hung out on one hand." Then it cuts to Sora talking to a Chirithy, which is interesting. He says, "I'll be back to visit you." Huh? "Yeah, you and me, we're friends now." And then it cuts to this sword duel between Sparrow and Davy Jones. "Give me the chest. Do you care to surrender?" "No." Then it cuts to this, where we see evil Baymax, and he says, "Tadashi wouldn't want there to be a Baymax that hurts people." And then we see some cool gameplay. I do like the format of Kingdom Hearts 3 trailers, by the way, in general. Story, gameplay, revealing moment, cut to black. It's a very typical pattern, but I enjoy it, so I'm with it. There's some cool stuff happening. We'll talk more about the specifics of this in a moment. This is very cool. I think that's our first HD look at the Dream Realm. So I'm like, oh my god, look how many there are, and there's quadrillions of nobodies, and heartless and unversed. So then we see Terranort saying, "Who are you?" referring to Armor Dude here. And then we hear Mark Hamill's voice saying, "Now we forge it. The ultimate key. The Keyblade." Da-na-na-na. So yes, Mark Hamill is playing Xehanort, which is appropriate.
I've seen a lot of people, no one could replace Leonard Nimoy. That's the point. No one could.
No one could. Yeah, I agree. No one could replace him.
Just get a good voice actor for it, and I think Mark Hamill is perfect for the role. Ignoring the poetics of that.
Yeah.
It's a good decision.
I agree completely. Mark Hamill is an excellent voice actor in general. He already did a good job with Ericus. And, the fact that Ericus is voicing Xehanort amuses me tremendously. So, I've stopped on this image because I've seen many people trying to dissect this image. One of the biggest points of contention... I'm at the point where all 13 are on the ruin, by the way.
Yeah, right.
One of the biggest points of contention I've noticed is that some people seem to presume that some of these people have hoods and some of these people don't. And they're trying to extrapolate who each of these is based on, general format and size and hood presence or absence. Now, personally, having gone through this several times, I actually think they all have their hoods on. So anything we actually can extrapolate is purely based on their overall body type.
Right, yeah.
Which can be helpful. But the problem is there are actually quite a few people who have a very similar body type. So as weird as this may sound, I look at this and I just kind of looked at it and analyzed it for a bit, and I said, all right, and that's all I've got.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just a little bit too little here to work
We
with.
can glean from just this.
Now, I have a theory that I actually talked about last night on in Discord. I want to share online on camera. So, one of the biggest problems with Kingdom Hearts 3, in my opinion, is the fact that several characters are back who arguably shouldn't be. Now,
The main point of contention we discussed yesterday was Vanitas.
yes, Vanitas was the big one, because as I pointed out earlier, which is right about here, nope, a little bit. There, you can actually see very clearly the giant frog-looking thing. That is clearly an unversed, which means fairly definitively that, Vanitas is back in some actual fashion, rather than just being an illusion or a memory or a flashback, right? In order to be able to control the unversed. So let's go ahead and discuss a couple of the specifics. I'll end with Xehanort. First and foremost, let's talk about Vanitas. Now, I've heard many actually different theories about Vanitas. I actually want Rax to go first on this one.
So I had an interesting theory during this discussion that we had yesterday. Basically, Ventus's heart has been, for lack of a better word, hibernating within Sora for 11 years and has been influenced by both Roxas and Sora. Now, neither of those two are pure light, of course, so it stands to reason that Vanitas could somehow, rise from the ashes, so to speak, and just somehow be back after all this time. Now, him being back right now is really convenient, I suppose, but we saw hints of this in Dream Drop Distance, so I don't think that this is just coming out of nowhere.
There we go. I do agree that this isn't the kind of thing that comes out of nowhere. To be clear, I do still disagree with him being back, but that's more of someone being back rather than the specific circumstance of Vanitas being back. I also personally feel that Vanitas' termination in Birth by Sleep made perfect sense, especially thematically.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
if I were directing the game, I wouldn't bring him back. I'd have someone else fill that role.
Yeah, I agree. Which gets, before I get into my theory, I just want to show really quick. We can see a pretty decent shot of Lee's new Keyblade here, and I just think it looks awesome, and that's it. I don't have anything to share. I just think it looks awesome.
The fact that they changed it up a bit from Dream Drop Distance and added a glow effect is that's amazing.
Oh
It
yeah,
looks really nice.
yeah. No, it looks very nice. So, anyways, I still hope we have multiple playable characters. That's still a personal want of mine in this game. We'll see what they do with that. Not a lot of specific news. Anyways, my own theory is actually kind of similar. The way I think of it is I like the idea that the Vanitas that we are encountering in this game is not the Vanitas we encountered in Birth by Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That we are basically encountering the same type of entity, the same construct, if you will, but instead of being crafted solely out of Ventus's broken heart, it's being crafted out of the amalgam that is Sora's broken heart.
Right.
Not only would this make perfect sense to me, it would still he would still look kind of the same for the same reason Vanitas looked the way he did. He would still operate the same because of the nature of his construction. And as several people are like, well, hang on a second. When would they have had a chance to interact with Sora? Well, actually, if you remember, during Dream Drop Distance, they had an unknown period of time where they had Sora. Like, Sora's heart broke. He actually finally cracked under the weight of all the despair and horribleness, and they took him, and then Riku and crew had to go and rescue him, and there was an unknown period of time gap in between those two things. It would make perfect sense. I mean, I guarantee you they did something during that period of time, but it would make sense to me that among the things they did, they might have crafted the new Vanitas. Now, whether this new Vanitas is fully distinct from the old Vanitas or not is more a matter of debate than it is about fact, given the morphic nature of entities within this setting.
Right. One thing I would find really interesting if they did, go off of your idea, I think it would be really interesting if they do the face reveal like they did in Birth by Sleep, but instead of it looking like a dark Sora, it looks like a dark Ventus.
I think that would be very
because
cool.
Instead it's, primarily Sora's heart that's influencing that.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I agree. That would be actually very cool. That would also kind of prove my point. Oh, yes, I just wanted to point out something really quick here. There's actually a chocobo here. Right there. Do you see it?
That is adorable.
It's super cute. Anyways, I like to always point out at least one thing I think no one else has pointed out when I do these little trailer analyses. we do see a decent amount of gameplay stuff here too, as per the norm. And I'm going to go ahead and let it play during slow-mo here. We once again see the flying glow thing. We see this puzzle mode, and for the first time in the history of Forever, they might actually have minigame puzzles that are legitimately fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I shouldn't say that. I actually enjoyed several in previous games, most notably Kingdom Hearts 2. But, I mean, this looks cool. So we'll see where they go with that. And, of course, flowers for Rabbit's flower garden. Poor Rabbit. I always feel so bad for Rabbit. And then we see how we can have combo attacks. We've actually, I believe we've seen this exact attack before. Please correct me if I'm wrong here, Rax. It's the spinning attack with with what's-her-face's hair.
No, we haven't seen that before. I mean, when I was at the premiere event and they showed some behind-the-scenes footage, they actually showed this to us, but they haven't revealed that publicly, no.
Oh, okay, that's why I was mistaken on that. Apologies. So anyways, this is still cool. We also see another one for him and, God, I can't think of his damn name. Johnny Depp. Jack Sparrow, there we go. Just bombs everywhere. Bombs. That just looks cool. And then we, of course, see the honey launcher. This is probably my personal favorite. In Twilight Town, by the way. Which I only point out because that means with definitive certainty that we can do these kind of special attacks outside their given world.
Yeah.
Now, that may be a Winnie the Pooh exclusive thing. I hope it's not.
I don't believe it is, because they have shown certain Keyblades interacting in different worlds, and they've shown the shot locks and the finishing moves and everything like that. So, and speaking from experience, we can actually do these things outside of the given world, no problem.
Yeah, that is my definitive hope. Now, this is probably the most interesting thing for me from a purely gameplay perspective. First and most obvious thing to point out, look in the lower left. There's no title card there. Mm-hmm. There's no world card, whatever the proper term is for those things, which is fascinating in its own right. Second of all, based on several other things, I think this is the Dream Realm.
I've seen a variety of theories about this.
I've seen a lot myself too. Yeah.
One that I am, thinking about is kind of similar to that. It's a Dream Realm, but given the fact that we see a Chirithy, I think this is Ventus's, I want to say consciousness?
I get you.
Like somehow we enter Ventus's mind or something, and we're here to basically wake him up, effectively.
Yeah. No, I agree with the theory. Now, one thing, unfortunately, I wasn't able to determine. If you look at the screen right now, I've paused it on the 4th pillar, roughly, from the left, or I guess second pillar from the right. There's something on top of that pillar. It's clearly a statue or a person of some kind, but I cannot tell what it is. And I've tried several times. It's just there's only so much you can zoom in a small picture. Unlike in fiction, where I can just say zoom and enhance. Yeah, I can't actually do that in real life. So I don't know what that is, and I'm absolutely intensely curious. Now we do see this is actually a nice shot. You'll notice we of course see ourselves many times here. In fact, you can literally see dozens of Soras in this particular shot here. Mm-hmm. But if you pay attention, you'll notice that statue thing is still there on the left, the far left corner there, whatever the hell that is. Now, I've heard several people argue about what it is or what it isn't, but based on the extremely limited thing that I can actually see here, I think that's his Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep armor, assuming this is Ventus.
I was thinking the same thing.
So,
that's the only thing I can actually think of.
This is cool looking. Yeah, let's rewind again, because I want to show that off one more time really quick, because this is just a very cool sequence. There's a lot of... you'll notice that the main character is basically deliberately trying to go through clones of himself. In fact, during the drop sequence, it's pretty clear that that's actually his goal, is to specifically collide with them. Mm-hmm. The most common theory I keep hearing about that is, trying to gather pieces of himself, piece of his heart or whatever, in order to fill up the bar of sentience, or whatever the hell you want to call it,
Right, yeah.
That kind of a thing. And you'll notice, we've got a bit of a Tron thing going on with ourselves. This is actually shown several times during these sequences. So, Max Time mentions that he thinks it's the data thing, or in Ventus's heart. Maybe it was something else who mentioned the data thing. I don't know.
Now that I get a good look at that, it does seem like that's much more plausible than my idea. So... I don't even know where to begin with, how this would connect to what we're seeing.
Yeah. And there is one other little tidbit. I gotta find where it is. Don't actually remember. Maybe it's back here. Yep, here it is. You'll notice here, when we actually interact with the Chirithi, the background isn't 100% identical, but it's pretty damn close, if you'll notice the comparison there. Just kind of skipping back and forth between the two. And that by itself is very interesting to me, and one of the reasons why I automatically assume Dream Realm, because there's a frickin' Chirithi there. Here's the thing. Can a Chirithi exist in a data realm?
Given what we know about Union Cross and Unchained Key, I would say yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Because obviously I already gave my knee-jerk reaction, but it is entirely possible this is either a Chirithi built in the data realm or one that traveled to it, from the proper dream realm or whatever, and is interacting with Sora in what is effectively a data realm.
Mm-hmm.
That would explain a lot of what we're seeing here, and would even give a bit of motivation, which, again, most likely has to do with Ventus. So, that's cool. Now, you know what I would personally really like? Again,
what's that?
Personally, I would like it if we have to basically, for lack of a better way to in gameplay, jump into people's hearts in sort of a data recreation, and each one is stylistically and thematically different in order to basically, for lack of a better way to put it, save them.
That would be interesting. And if I may bring up the command card not really having a style like it does on other worlds, it could either not be finalized for all of these different elements, or it could be that they just don't want to give something away.
Yeah, that's possible.
With regards to this whole story element.
It's very possible. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. And now, several other people have also pointed this out, and I should address that. Several people have noticed that Sora has a lot of health here. Like, way more than he is in most of the other presentations of him, which would imply higher level, which would imply late game.
Mid to late game.
Yeah, exactly. I admit, so, if this is what I am thinking it is, and this is, again, pure speculation, I specifically say this would be Ventus because it's Sky.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of see what I'm thinking there, like the idea of an underwater version of this kind of gameplay, and then a under-earth, underground version of this kind of gameplay for the other two big ones would make a great deal of sense to me, and it's kind of what I was referencing earlier. Now, you'll do notice there is actually a lot of water motif here, too. It's kind of hard to showcase, but if you pay attention to where Sora is specifically walking, it's a lot more obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to it in just a second, because I'm in slow mode. There we go, there you go. See, you can literally see the splashing all over the place. Almost the entire arena is covered in water. And you can see little bits here and there, especially in the background there, as we're flying through this section. And you'll notice that several of the things actually look like ice. So, maybe this is actually a combination situation. Or maybe I'm just reading way too much into it. I don't freaking know.
Yeah. I mean, this could be similar to how in Final Fantasy VII they have, rebuilding Cloud's consciousness. This could be a multiple person situation of a similar idea where we help out the BBS trio, or at least Ventus and Aqua, because we'll get to Terra in a second.
Yeah. So quick couple of things just before we get to anything big. You'll notice that they actually show the chest there. It's actually quite visible. It is clearly not the black chest, which is interesting because a lot of people, myself included, were theorizing that the chest they were searching in the Pirates world, again, was the black chest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a chest. In fact, it is basically the chest from Pirates of the Caribbean, so shrug. I'm not sure what they're doing with that, since they already mentioned they're not doing the Davy Jones heart thing, so I don't know. Another thing I want to point out really quick is that this is still hysterical. I'm sorry, I can't get over it. Yeah! And I just like to think that Ansem there is like, what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing?
Yeah, seriously.
And they got to slow it down, of course. This is... So, okay. I do want to talk about two more substantive things. One is Demyx and Vexen, and the other is Terranord. So let's talk about Demyx and Vexen first. Now, I say those names. That might be inaccurate. This might not be Demyx, and this might be even.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, we don't get a good shot at whoever the guy on the right's eyes is, but we do get a pretty good shot right there of Demyx's eyes. They are quite yellow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got a shot of Vexen's eyes. I say Vexen. His eyes in the previous trailer we analyzed. So I mean, it stands to reason that both of them look, Norded, so to speak.
Oh, who got Norded? I'm never letting that go. Actually, I'm sorry. I got to share this really quick, Rex. I saw someone do a whole 3-page post about how they're quitting Kingdom Hearts Forever because it's unacceptable that Aqua got Norded. Did you see that by chance?
I did not.
Oh, it was hysterical. It was someone basically talking about how this was a total betrayal of the heart of the games, and it was unacceptable for this to happen, blah blah. And I'm just like, wow. Anyways, now there's a lot of possible theories about these two. I just want to run through some of the most obvious ones really quick. In my mind, my theory is that this is a flashback. That is, to me, the most obvious presentation here, that this is Demyx and Vexen back in the old day, and this is some kind of flashback that's relevant to the story. And I'm okay with that on the basis of fleshing out both characters more, because, to be completely blunt, Demyx and Vexen didn't get a whole lot of characterization in anything. Mm-hmm. So, more of that, cool.
I mean, they've already done that with, they've already done something similar, I should say, with Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, where they added a scene in which Vexen and Zexion and Xigbar all got characterization, and we got the reveal that Xigbar actually recruited Marluxia to the organization. Mm-hmm. So this could be a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I don't know for certainty, of course. Unfortunately, as we've explained before, the coat is not indicative of being the nobody.
Right.
I mean, Lee is still wearing his, for example. Now, it's funny, I can't help but point out that they gave us a clear visual distinction of when it's Axel and when it's Lee. The eyes. Mm-hmm. And by the eyes, I mean
the eye makeup.
The eye makeup, yeah. It's very clear and very obvious, just bam. Now, I point that out because several people have mentioned, and I don't know how true this is, that pointed ears is another sign of the nobody versus the somebody.
Yes, it is.
Well, if you notice,
it doesn't have pointed.
Exactly, you'll notice that that's one little thing. If we are to say that is correct, this might actually be. I don't know what his name would be because we don't know what his name would be. The guy who is Demyx's somebody.
Right.
Now,
and considering what they were talking about in the previous trailer, I mean, it makes sense that this is in the present and they're just incognito rather than this being a flashback. But I suppose either could happen.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I just hope we get more characterization regardless.
Right, yeah.
So, and to just rewind a second here. There we go. You'll notice that Vexen's ears, it's kind of harder to see, but Vexen's ears are also very clearly not pointed here. So again, make of that what you will. So that just leaves, I think Terranord is it. Let me just zip through here really quick. I mean, we could talk about how this is the awesome battle of awesome.
It does look really fun.
Thousands of heartless and unversed and nobody's all at the same time. I mean, Nomura has said many times that he really wanted to do this and the PS2 was basically just not capable.
Mm-hmm. So and him finally being able to fully realize this for what is effectively the penultimate battle of the saga is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, I agree. So anyways, here we see Terranort. So, yeah, exactly. Battle of the Thousand Heartless. Round 2. Anyways, lots of Keyblades for some reason. I don't know why there's so many Keyblades. What I do want to comment on, so this is the same ruins thing that we saw earlier. If you remember, we actually spent like 2 or 3 minutes just speculating on what the ruins could be. We saw Roxas there specifically, and it could have been Ventus, but it was one of the two. And I just wanted to point out that several of these Keyblade designs as they're kind of falling here are ones specifically from Union Cross. That's all I wanted to point out here.
Right, yeah.
You can actually recognize several of them as they're going by here. So then we got this shot. Like I said, they're cloaked, whatever, woo. So there's Xehanort, Master Xehanort, more specifically voiced by Mark Hamill. And what I want to say about this is I don't think that's him.
You don't think that's Xehanort?
Well, no. And I want to explain that, and then I want you to yell at me for being stupid.
You're stupid. Moving on.
Thank you.
No. All right, go ahead.
I talked about this last night, but I want to more clearly state this, especially since this is part of the trailer analysis, and I'm, on YouTube here. I think... Okay, rewind a second. So, one of the biggest things that needs to be explained is Xemnas, Seeker of Darkness, and Master Xehanort being back. Right? Now, we kind of already mentioned that with regards to Vanitas in specific, but those three don't make sense. Based on what we understand and based on the rules, those three should not be back, and more to the point, they should not be active at the same time.
Right.
Now, at the end of Dream Drop Distance, all three of the individuals I just mentioned all vanish back into time. Now, that made sense. That made perfect sense, because Xemnas was going back to before the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, Seeker of Darkness was going back to before the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, and Master was going back to before he joined Terra. All of that was logical.
Right.
For all three of them to be active right now is not. It is full on getting in the way of the continuity of the series, unless we assume they're actually not back.
Yeah. That is an interesting thought. So do you mean like that the two specifically, the Heartless and the Nobody, do you mean that they are illusions of some sort?
Effectively, so I'm thinking in two different directions that basically accomplish the same thing. Oh yeah, just really quick, one of the reasons I paused here so you can very clearly see the pointed ears. It's super obvious once you see them like that. Anyway, so in two different ways they could pull this off, which would both accomplish the same thing. If they're just straight up illusions, that would actually make a lot of sense to me. In fact, all three of them being straight up illusions that are actively being controlled by the one who is back, which would be Terranort. Because it makes the most sense that after Seeker of Darkness goes away and Xemnas goes away, it reverts to the original state, which would be Terranort. It would be the Xehanort that was in Terra. That's how he split and created the other two. So reverting to that makes logical sense. It would also help to explain why Terranort is active in several of these trailers at the same time as the other three. In other words, he's the only one who is actually active. The other three are just puppets, basically, that he's controlling. Now, there's another theory I have, which is a little more fantastical. Because it's entirely possible... Oh, that's interesting, Max Time. It's entirely possible that it is... we know for a total certainty that a digital life form can develop a heart. That's basically what Recoded was all about.
Exactly, yeah.
And so it's entirely possible, therefore, to take another step forward and say... to say fear. Thank you very, very much, Trafin. As ever, I do very much appreciate that continued support. I've already put that down towards Warcraft 3 Reforged. Thank you again. It is very possible that what Xehanort, or to be slightly more accurate, Terranort has been doing, has been using the either the holodeck, for lack of a better term, the digital datascape, to craft empty bodies with some programming and then jam a piece of his heart into them, effectively recreating Xemnas. In most ways that matter, that would not be Xemnas.
That wouldn't be Xemnas. It would just be someone who looks like Xemnas but is effectively a new being.
Exactly. And the same thing with Seeker of Darkness, and the same thing with Master of Xehanort. This kind of deception would also be extremely logical for someone like Xehanort to do, because, as I've pointed out before, a lot of his strategy in this endgame seems to be about obviously maneuvering to manipulate the heroes into doing what he wants. We've already seen several examples of this in Dream Drop Distance, and here in the many trailers we've had for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Right.
Especially with the way young Xehanort's interacting with them, which would be another one in this group, by the way. So the idea being that these are either not actually part of his 13, or are the holes being filled in his 13. And yeah, that's basically it. That's the conclusion of the theory.
That would actually be a very interesting story direction, because, of course, Terranort is not just Xehanort's heart. It's got pieces of Terra inside of him, and he's also got pieces of Ericus inside of him. Could be his undoing.
Oh, I agree. It would be fascinating if they go in a direction where all of these basic duplicates, or whatever the hell they are partially infested, for lack of a better way to put it, with both Ericus and Terra, and that kind of turning things against them towards the end. In fact, I got to be honest, I would totally geek out at the idea of fighting alongside Xemnas against Terranort. That just sounds really cool.
That would be interesting.
But, something.
Right. I do want to address the point that several people are bringing up in that, it could just be time travel. They've employed time travel all of once in the series.
Yeah.
And that was under different rules. In that, there's a dream state to go back to and still maintain control of your body. Because under the normal rules of time travel within Kingdom Hearts, you cannot travel back and retain your body like they are doing here, or travel forward, or travel anywhere along the timeline. So I don't believe that, and I know this is odd for me to say, but I don't believe that the series is going to be logically inconsistent with that particular point this late into the series. They've retconned some of the earlier stuff, but usually they're pretty good about building upon the later stuff rather than just discarding it.
Also, I agree with you completely, to be completely blunt. I do think, as I have argued and defended many times, they have, to date, been 100% self-consistent with their time travel rules. I spent significant periods of time during the Kingdom Hearts lore run explaining that and explaining exactly how that works and how that self-coheses. I also love the fact that this game is rated E for everyone because of alcohol references.
Alcohol references. Where's all the rum gone?
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be just the rum. I would almost bet money that's the only place where alcohol references are in this entire game.
Although I believe during the Ratatouille minigame, Sora actually cooks with wine.
Oh, so. There you go. There you go. Oh, it's horrible. Anyways, but yeah, I would be lying if I said my anticipation for this game was slowly starting to re-exist. As I've said many, many times, it's actually legitimately difficult for me to be excited about a thing that's just too far out.
Right. You get excited during the initial announcement, then it dips, and then as we get closer, it builds back up again.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to admit, given that we are now basically about 3 months out from right now, a little less than 3 months, actually.
Yeah, it's about 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a countdown timer on somewhere.
Actually, it is exactly 2.5 months away, at least in Japan.
Oh, damn Japan! But yeah, no. Actually, I wanted to point out one other thing really quick too. Who's the elephant?
Oh God, I know it's from one of the newer Winnie the Pooh movies.
Yeah, I don't recognize him, and that just made me feel weird. Like Rue's there, yeah, and Gopher and Piglet and who the hell's the elephant?
Someone who knows Winnie the Pooh better than we do.
Yeah, someone tell us who this is. I actually don't know. It's Lumpy, apparently. I don't even know who that is. Anyways, sorry. I just that Heffalump.
Although I don't know what film it's from, so
I have no idea. I could probably quote some of old Winnie the Pooh for you by heart, but I just kind of stopped watching after a certain point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess since we're here, I do kind of want to mention this really quick, even though I referenced it earlier. I always have been debating this in my mind, the nature of when I should do a premiere run exactly. And I actually had a decent discussion about this last night with Rax and several other people. And I think what I'm going to do going forward is for the really big premiere runs, for really big name games that are well anticipated and well excited and, guaranteed buys is what it really boils down to. I'm going to drop kick them. Yeah, that's so awesome. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start making it to be a vote by you guys. Now, that's not the vote that's up right now. Like I said, that's coming out in December. But the vote is very simple. Do I delay the premiere run by an X amount of time? Probably about a week, I'd say, for Kingdom Hearts 3. So that people who want to play the game without spoilers can do so and then join me on stream. And so that's going to be a vote for you guys. I will, again, be leaving that up for most of the month of December. We're not there yet. But I do want everyone to be thinking about that because, personally, I could see a lot of pros and a lot of cons at both sides. And I'm very, very much torn on exactly where I want to go with that. But this would be unprecedented if we do this. So think of that in whatever direction you want to. Oh, yeah, by the way, notice they're on water. Again, you can see the ripples there. Cherothies look so weird in full 3D there. I'm sorry, they just look so damn weird.
Regarding the vote thing, that would only apply for stuff like your Final Fantasies, your Mass Effects, your Dragon Ages, stuff that we're primarily an RPG community, I'd say. Mm-hmm. So this would mostly apply to big RPGs, whereas stuff like, say, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto 6 might not apply to something like that.
Yeah.
The heads up.
Yeah, going forward, as Rax just inferred, it would be a case-by-case thing. It's not a
Right.
every
It's not
new
like
premiere
oh,
run
this
is
a
gonna...
AAA game. It's going up for a vote.
Yeah, no, it'll be case-by-case. Right now, off the top of my head, I can only think of 2 games it applies to. That's Cyberpunk 2020 and Kingdom Hearts 3. There might be others. Like I said, I'll think about it. But as ever, as I like to say, this is your guys' show too. So I want your guys' input and thoughts on that when we get there, of course. So be prepped for that. Oh, hey, we're doing something with the... Well, that was... Hang on. Well, now we're with Gopher, but we were with the Heffalump guy. And there's like a pot of honey we could fill?
So I guess the mini games are tied to different characters?
I'm so confused.
Interesting.
Oh, well, they look fun enough. And it really looks fun to beat the hell out of people with hair. I mean, I've played Bayonetta. Anyways, that is basically all I got. So, anybody, do you have any other thoughts, comments, questions, Rex?
No, not really.
Okay, well, in that case, we'll end on the honey gun. Yeah. Honey launcher. What's funny is it actually shoots the whole bee. You can kind of see it there for a few frames.
Right, yeah.
Attacking people with a giant bee made of honey is just awesome. Anyways. So we'll go ahead and chop that. And with that, we're basically done with Loreweek. So I'm going to go ahead and chop off the local recording.